Hello, my name is Cheyenne. I am a photographer, a traveler, and a lover of dogs and kids and all the things. We actually just lost our dog to cancer last month. He got diagnosed 3 months after me, and we went through treatment together for months. I would go to his and then go to mine. It took my dog getting sick for me to realize, whoa, I don't want to miss any of those moments. And so I know that was his gift to me, was getting me to a place where then once he was gone, I was left with, okay, now I got to do this myself and I got to really focus on this. I got diagnosed with stage 3B melanoma in December of 2024. I was diagnosed with stage 2. And then in January, post-op, we discovered I was stage 3B. Yeah, I had noticed a mole on my back. It was actually a mole that had been there for some time. And I've learned now that excuse me, moles on your back are very hard to watch because you can't see them. But it was something that I was concerned about, and I had actually asked my general practitioner about it not long before we ended up getting it biopsied. And unfortunately, the first doctor I shared it with told me that she thought it was cosmetic. And I actually kind of pushed and said, "Are you sure?" And I let her know that it itched. And finding out later on that that's a pretty telltale sign, I've learned that when in doubt, biopsy, as you know. And, I didn't know enough at the time, but about 2 months later, I had come down with pneumonia in December of last year. And I went in for a chest x ray. And the physician's assistant asked me about the mole. And he said, "Have you had this checked out?" And I said, "Yeah, I just did a couple months ago." And he asked if we biopsied it. And I had said no. And he said, "I can't do it right now, but can you come back tomorrow? I'd love to just shave this off." And I said, "Absolutely." Because my prior doctor made me feel like it was cosmetic and it wouldn't be covered by insurance. And so thank God for him. So we shaved it off. The first doctor I saw spent 5 minutes with me. The second PA that I saw, he spends 20 to 30 minutes with me. And he even said to me, you can't give good care in 7 minutes. And 7 minutes apparently is the average they spend with you in the room. It was a doctor I had seen for the first time also. So I had hoped for a little bit longer of a visit. But yeah, I was pretty upset when I feel very in tune with my body and I trust my intuition a lot. But I had a mom who erred on the side of hypochondria. So I have always erred on the opposite side and never really worried about little things in medical stuff. But I do truly feel like when I know something's wrong, I know something's wrong. So I trust that gut wholeheartedly now. But yeah, I was really upset, and it took me a few months, but I eventually wrote that doctor a letter and let her know my case. And she wrote me back a very kind letter apologizing and thanking me for letting her know, and she let me know that she would be, pay more attention and be more careful in the future. So it felt good to get that off my chest. It wasn't that big. It was dark and it was raised. And so it's like, I don't know, like it was, you would notice it for sure. I have freckles everywhere. I'm covered in moles. So I'm a tough case. And I wasn't staring at it because it was on my back, so it's not like one that I was watching, whereas I have some other ones where I look at them and I ask about them. But yeah, wildly different than everything else in my body for sure. Oh, I'll never forget it. It was a Friday and I was trying to watch a movie with my family, and I saw the phone ring, and I remember thinking to myself, just stay present, don't answer the phone. And then it rang again, and it was a number I didn't know. And I have a little trigger response from the loss of my life when the phone rings repeatedly, and I actually self-talked myself out of answering it. And then I noticed the time and the day was a Friday at 5 o'clock, which, 5 o'clock is when your doctors tend to call you. And I didn't even remember the biopsy, but it rang a third time, and I decided to check the message, and I decided to pause the movie, and I told my husband I need to make a phone call. And sure enough, it was the doctor, and he was incredibly kind and sweet. I put him on speakerphone, so he delivered the news to both my husband and I. And at the time, we didn't know any staging or anything like that, but we knew that it was serious. And my brain flashed forward to all the things I had coming up and all the things I needed to do. And I was like, so I'm leaving for Mexico for a job in 10 days. Can I go? And he was kind of like, I don't think so. Well, his words to me exactly were, this needs to be the most important thing for you right now. I really truly feel like that man saved my life. I ended up finding out how aggressive it was and how a few months later would have made a big difference. So, yeah, everything changed December 27th. And within 3 days, I had a surgeon, a plastic surgeon, dermatology. I had 4 or 5 appointments and was scheduled for wide excision surgery in 2 weeks. And yeah, everything got put on hold, and he told me that this needed to be the most important thing that I focus on, and I took him very seriously. And recently, my husband went and got a skin check by him, and I got to go in and shake his hand and thank him very much. So I was given a team, and friends, of course, immediately were like, "You need second opinions and all these things," and I felt um, I felt comfortable with my team. I mean, I didn't know any different. I am a part of a organization here in Santa Cruz that I'm really happy with. And they put together a great, it felt comprehensive. It felt personal. It just felt good. And so I didn't feel at that time any need for a second opinion. And yeah, so and we're also very close to Stanford. I felt like I'm in the shadows of a really good teaching hospital. If and when I need to go there, I will. I have established care over there since then. So I feel like I have a very good team. At the time, I was T2, and they explained that it was hard to tell for certain because my biopsy was done by a shave. And so they didn't know the true depth of it until they went in. But yeah, they explained to me how the surgery would go, and that they were going to do a sentinel lymph node biopsy as well, and remove some of my sentinel lymph nodes in my right arm. And my mole was right behind my right arm. And they explained it pretty well to me. And then I followed up with some research. I would say I didn't grasp how big the excision was going to be. And I didn't grasp how intense the surgery was going to be. It was, about that big on my back. So a good chunk of my back. And then, the armpit numbness and inability to use that arm. They ended up finding cancer in one of my lymph nodes, and they removed that one. And there's still some things lighting up in that area, but yeah, it was more invasive than I realized. They called us in to talk about it in person with my husband and I, and we didn't actually even know that the staging could go up from there at that point. Um, so yeah, they explained the depth of mine on a scale of 1 to 4. It was a 3.5. So it was about as deep as it could go. It wasn't ulcerated, but the type that it was, the nodular type, was the most aggressive also. And then later on, when I went to Stanford, I learned of the mitotic rate, the rate at which it multiplied, was a 10. And so I was very high risk, very advanced, and they explained the treatment plan, that I would start immunotherapy in March, and then I would do 13 rounds, spaced out by about 3 weeks. So it was supposed to take me a year. It's going to be taking me a lot longer than we had planned, but um, yeah, so I started that in March. I did about 4 rounds, and I've been on pause for the last 9 weeks because of side effects. I developed colitis right away from immunotherapy, as well as a full body rash and extreme fatigue and thyroid issues, as well as adrenal issues, as well as prediabetes. So I got the whole package. To my knowledge, I've learned that I had autoimmune issues coming into this. I've had Hashimoto's thyroiditis underactive my whole life and have been on synthetic medication for that. And so I've been told that there's a tendency with people that have autoimmune going into it that once you start immunotherapy, you have a higher chance of getting other autoimmune diseases. Um, so apparently there's about 25% of people get one of these side effects from my treatment, and 4% get all five. I'm in that 4 percentile. We're just kind of in a holding pattern trying to get me down to a dosage where I can resume treatment, because we did get a second opinion. The conversation has been, can we stop treatment if we need to? And the general consensus is no. So we're going to try and push through, but we just have to get my body to a place where it can tolerate it. I think when you first get diagnosed, as I'm sure you know, everyone has a lot of ideas and a lot of opinions and a lot of suggestions for you. And everybody wants you to get the best possible care. And I did too. I'm in a smaller town and I wasn't sure, how great the care was here. But it started with, I thought as soon as I have a bad feeling or as soon as I have questions or doubts, I'll go for a second opinion. But in the beginning, I felt really on track. And then my dermatologist, actually here in Santa Cruz, she suggested it. She said, your skin is hard to keep track of, and you'll be in here every 3 months, but it might not hurt for you to go to Stanford. And as soon as she said the words, I said, I would love that. I said, I'd love to go over there. Because I had fears of asking for a second opinion, even though I know now it's very normal and your doctors aren't supposed to take it offensively. But I didn't ask for that outright. So when she mentioned Stanford, I said, can I please? And she said, absolutely. So she referred me to their melanoma center and got me established. And I'm just going to go there every 6 months. And I'm in there so that if I need, further care from them, I can. So it feels really safe. I appreciate it. And I have a dear friend of mine battling stage 4 cancer who's established over there. And he has been kind of my cancer guru, and he's communicated with his doctors about my doctors. He said, it sounds like you're in great hands, and vice versa. He's kind of helped me navigate some of the system over there as well. I have a really great support system. I have some really incredible friends who have shown up, who send me messages, who send me photos and books and things. But I would say mentally, I have started meditating in the mornings, which has been a game changer for me, and really working on breath work and calming my nervous system, because my nervous system is so wound up from this year and the loss of my dog. And just trying to be more calm so that every experience is not as jarring to my body as it has been. So my days are pretty slow, and my goal is I try to just get to yoga every day. That's it's funny, what I used to do all before 8 a.m. is about all I can do for the entire day now. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to yoga, and I'm going to go to the grocery store, and I'm going to get my infusion, and I'm going to come home. And like, that to me is a very successful day, which is hilarious. It's been a gift. I mean, been a huge learning lesson for me. And I won't lie, the first 6 months of this year, I just kept working. I didn't stop, and I figured out how to work in between treatments and pretend like everything was fine. And I kept operating at my highly efficient level. And I realized when they told me I had adrenal insufficiency and borderline adrenal crisis, it's when I finally started listening. And I was like, oh, okay, my body's not I think I'm handling this well, but my body's mad at me and I need to stop. So I was proud of how much I could do. Like if I wore it like a badge, I was like, oh, I can do 100 things in a day and then come home and make and still do all these things. And now I'm just like, why did I feel like I had to do that all the time? So really slowing down. I mean, I truly, truly have only done that in the last 2 months and even more so in the last couple of weeks. It took my dog getting sick for me to realize, when they told me he had about 2 to 4 months to live, I thought, whoa, I don't want to miss any of those moments. And that actually made me start turning down work and start staying home. And so I know that was his gift to me, was getting me to a place where then once he was gone, I was left with, okay, now I got to do this myself and I got to really focus on this. So it's changed us a lot. He's been incredible. I feel like he has just he's been there with open arms. Fortunately, he works from home. So when there's appointments that I need him to go to with me, he will, take the time and come with me. He's just been super supportive financially. He's been super supportive. He was working part-time, very comfortably, and took a full-time position as soon as I decided to go on disability, and just kind of stepped up and offered to take the brunt of all the things, so I didn't have to worry financially. Our whole life has obviously changed in terms of travel and commitments, and we had to have some big talks about what our expectations were. And we try to look at some of it as short term and some of it as longer term. Like, let's just say for the next month we don't go anywhere, or for us right now, it was really for the whole year. Like, this is our year where we stay home and we focus on this, and we can do some little weekend driving getaways. We love to travel. We're both kind of little adrenaline junkies with sports and things, so not skiing or surfing or doing all those things is hard, for us, but we live in a beautiful place and we're just getting to spend more time at home and with friends. I have radically changed my diet, and I have really focused on things at home that can help heal myself. And I'm dealing with the cancer diagnosis, but at the same time, I feel like I'm healing my body, in a way that it's always wanted. Like, even outside of cancer, like I was trying to, you know, reduce the inflammation in my body already, and this was just a catalyst. And in a weird way, I feel like the things I've been doing have been so supportive and integrative that my body's oddly happy. Like, I can tell my body is like, oh, thank you, this is like the care and concern that I've always wanted. And they were things I always wanted to do, but it felt so hard to make big changes in my diet. Just simple things like getting rid of processed foods and things like that. Like, none of us should be eating crap, but it's so easy and it's so accessible. And so feeding my body really well and nourishing my body really well has been something that has felt so good and I felt so proud of. And I wish we all did, regardless of cancer. So, obviously, getting slapped with the C word is a bigger incentive. But I am just really proud of, like, the healthy changes I've made in my life, have been the silver lining in all of this for me. It's mostly foods I've taken out of my diet. But I have stopped drinking, and I have stopped, all processed foods, all processed meats. I've stopped, red meat personally. I don't do any cow products. I will do some goat and sheep and some game, occasionally, just because I'm pretty deficient in iron. I've switched to completely organic everything. And I juice every day, and I take a lot of supplements that I'm deficient in. I'm really bad at taking vitamins, so my supplements are little droppers of vitamin D and B12 and iron and folate and all those kinds of things. And I put them straight in my green juice in the morning, and I just drink that. And I've really enjoyed juicing, as like nerdy as it sounds, but it's kind of become meditative. It's just my thing I do every Sunday. I'm off of sugar. I'm just doing honey and maple syrup. And that was the hardest for me. Oh my gosh. Alcohol was no problem. Processed meat was kind of hard because I loved sausages and things. But when I took out sugar, I felt like a crazy person. And it took me months. The things that have really stuck out for me is really trusting your gut, trusting your intuition. I think our intuition is so spot on when you're in tune with your body, and whether that's you're not feeling well, something doesn't feel right, or you just know. And honoring that, I've gotten a lot better at, and advocating for yourself, and really, I mean, just knowledge is power. And I know I'm not a doctor and I know I don't know the specifics, but understanding your type of cancer, understanding your type of treatment, and knowing your options, I think is huge, because I think we go into these appointments and we get fed so much information so fast, and we take it as the holy grail, and we don't always know what our options are. And so always going in with a list of questions, always writing down answers to questions, you know, just trying to have a very comprehensive understanding of what's going on. So from an education and intuition perspective, and from a research perspective, like that has helped me a lot. So really just kind of fighting for yourself is something I've learned a lot.